Hi, Ander. This is still proving to be a really terrific topic, and one that you've demonstrated a specificity that I think largely gets overlooked. Somehow that the environmental concerns are universal, right? We think of them as like a global issue or at least a national issue. Um, the fact that you're kind of highlighting how once again low-income residents in America are disproportionately affected by things that presumably are universal issues. Granted, of course, the environment is a universal issue, right? But highlighting how it affects these people in particular, I think, is creating a nuance in your investigation. Now, two things I'm going to focus on primarily for this draft. One of them is your categories, which seem to emerge right around page 4. The effects of climate change have a considerable impact on communities because of poor quality housing, economic instability, and proximity to pre-existing environmental hazards. I think you do a pretty good job exploring that pre-existing or the proximity to environmental hazards, because obviously um, the housing that low-income people get is going to be less desirable and presumably close to issues of environmental hazard. Yeah. Is that what you also mean by poor quality housing? I wasn't quite sure. Um, and that needs to be clarified, right? The economic instability associated with the drought, I think you do some good jobs with, talk about water pricing. But then you also talk about the people that work the jobs that are associated with the drought most, which is agriculture. So I think it's going to be really important to define who you are referring to most and to more explicitly clarify the categories. They get a little blurry at moments. Um, do you want to focus specifically on people that work in and around agriculture um, and how that's traditionally been affiliated with low-income jobs? If so, define what those jobs are, not just the people that work in the fields, obviously, right? But people that might be associated with agriculture. Maybe define what that is, because then it'll give a clear sense of who you're referring to. Yeah, because obviously it's not just agriculture, but maybe other things related to agriculture. And if that's the case, do you want to focus on that particular group of low-income people, or are you interested in exploring how low-income people in general in America are affected by the drought most? You see where I'm getting at? It might be good to position which one that is. And there's going to be a lot of overlap and Venn diagramming here, but it might evoke a clearer idea of what the reader is focusing on specifically. So clarifying those categories and then clarifying who you mean by being most vulnerable. Is it low income in general and you making that connection between the drought and those people being affected? Or is it a particular subset of low-income communities specifically related to agriculture, right? Um, I know that it's kind of like, it's a slight vantage shifts, but it's going to be important for the argument's clarification and certainly who your audience is. Yeah. The proposals for what we can do to mitigate, specifically with low-income socioeconomic status in mind, is very interesting. And how you kind of blow it back up into like, we just got to fix this problem. That's how it's going to be mitigated best. But always keep that low-income, uh, the low-income community that you're referencing early, keep them in your mind as you're exploring the solutions so that you have a cohesive argument within the paper overall. Nice work. We're, of course, going to talk next week about further strategies. Good luck.